Hello, founders. It is time for another pitch deck critique. This one comes from my buddy, Main Man Heron, and his startup is called WordPlay. Sent me this deck. Before I start, I want to highlight something very important about this deck here, and that this is a pre-seed deck. Pre-seed. So that means we are pre-revenue, pre-product, pre-everything. This is right from a prototype, initial prototype, just to validate the direction, but the product hasn't even started in terms of getting built. Nowhere close, no revenue, anything like that. So Heron is trying to raise money for the build out to be able to build his MVP. And it's important because when you are a pre-seed deck, your decks need to come across a little bit differently than other decks. And if you're watching this, it means my main man Heron has given permission for us to publish this out there. Totally appreciate it. Let me say something super clear first before we continue. I do not do these pitch deck reviews unless I believe in the founder or believe in the startup in some form or another. In this case, even though pre-seed, pre-revenue, pre-product, Heron has shown the grind, the grit, the hustle to get in there and start trying to learn how to use all the materials that we provide here at startups.com to start building a pitch deck that's going to allow him to raise that first check, that initial money to go out and build his MVP. And I want to provide feedback because this is a great learning experience because we have so many founders in our community who are in the same situation. So once again, this is a pre-seed deck, and you are going to be targeting not professional investors in terms of venture capital. For example, an A16Z is not going to look at this type of deck. You're looking at friends, family, and associates, or angels. Friends, family, and associates, or angels, investors, maybe some accelerators, maybe some incubators. But when you are pre-seed, you don't even have a product yet. You're looking at people who want to YOLO a bunch of money in there and say, hey, here's 10K, here's 20K, probably not going to see that money ever again, but totally interested in seeing what you can come up with because I believe in you, etc. And really at the pre-seed stage, that's what happens is the investor believes in the founder, and the founder can figure out, hey, how do I get to this next milestone and start raising the real money necessary to build a startup that eventually becomes a unicorn and all that stuff. And the reason these investors get in is because at such an early stage, you are looking at a really good deal because the failure rate is extremely high. And getting in at this deal, you can say, okay, here's my 10 grand or 20 grand. I want 10% of the company, which you're just not going to get that type of deal, or 20% later on, because, hey, this is the biggest risk that I'm going to take right here. So here we're working with WordPlay. Now, right off the bat, what I want to encourage all the founders to do is figure out the tagline there. So social media app 2024 doesn't mean anything to me other than it's in social media, but there's so many different ways that we can couch social media and present it. So I'm looking for a tagline that is just very straightforward to the point. So in this case, I know that this is a tool to help small businesses create short form video, right? So basically say short form video tool for small businesses, something along those lines. And you want to avoid any fluff. And so you don't want to say, we are transforming the way video is done for a new generation of blah, 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 blah. You don't want to do that. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of a tagline right on the cover page. So as an investor, I know what I'm getting into right away. Let's move along here and say, oops, just get my tools going. All right. So the problem. Right now it says short video has become a critical part of advertising on social media in the $227 billion market. But 20% of small businesses lack the tools and the budget to be effective and compete with bigger brands. Okay, so we've got something good happening here, which is Heron is trying to be a lot more explicit in terms of the size, quantify the problem and the issue, how bad that problem is. So I like the fact that we got numbers and percentages in here, but this whole line here is the size of market. I don't need this in here. Why? Because the rest of it is starting to look pretty good. 20% of small businesses lack the tools and the budget to be effective and compete with bigger brands. Okay, first of all, we need to understand, where does the 20% come from? So you might want to put a little stat line here where you got this from, right? You want to say, all right, according to what? The Census Bureau or this study, Pew Research, all those things. But then here's a tip that you can do is you can make this a lot more visceral or real in terms of how severe or how painful this problem is. So I looked up and I know that there are 33 million small businesses out in the United States right now. So if we take 20% of them, right? What is that? That's 6.6 million. So I could say something like 6.6 million small businesses lack the short form video tools necessary to compete with bigger brands. Something along those lines, right? 6.6 million businesses can't afford to create short form video to compete with the bigger brands. You see how I've gotten very clear in terms of what the pain point is. Now, I'm going to guess that that's a bigger number, but let's just go with the 20% number. I don't know where we got that from. And then we take 33 million businesses, that's 6.6 million businesses. All right. So really hone down that problem. Forget the total market size here and just go straight to the point and make it as detailed and visceral as possible. So the investor goes, okay, I get it. I understand what we're working with. Next, WordPlay is a social media platform that gives small businesses effortless tools to run beautiful and effective short video ads fast and cheap to compete with bigger brands. Okay, there are a few issues going on here. And the important principle is that a solution statement needs to reverse engineer the problem statement. Okay, so we need to go backwards. Now, there are a few things that are occurring that are causing a little bit of friction in my brain. And the key principle here is if you make the investor do too much work that they don't understand and get clarification, you're going to lose the investor. So first off, social media platform. This is not a social media platform, all right? I understand because I looked through the rest of this deck. This is a tool that creates videos. It's not a social media platform. So you want to just say it right away. This is a tool. And you want to get rid of the fluff, effortless to run beautiful and, etc. Okay. So here's how I would say it. WordPlay is a tool that lets small businesses create short video ads faster and cheaper to compete with bigger brands. But now I want to get more detailed. So I've gotten, okay, it's a little bit of version, faster and cheaper, but how much? And what if I could make this a 10x solution, meaning that at 10% of the cost? So let's try this. WordPlay is a tool that allows small businesses to create and run beautiful short video ad campaigns at 10% of the cost of bigger brands, okay? At 10% of normal cost to compete with bigger brands. 10% of the time and cost, right? Maybe that's what we do. And now we are showing, hey, not only is this a solution that solves the problem exactly the way that we've laid it out, but it's a 10x solution. Now we're getting compelling. So that's what I would do here and test it out. You're going to hear me say this over and over again. I might as well get it out of the way right now. Test, 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 right? I only have an opinion. I have one opinion. So you want to test it out with other people and you want to get the general feedback and get it right between the eyes. Don't test it with people who are going to just tell you what you want to hear. Test it with people who know that they're going to give you the feedback as if you're never going to get offended, right? They're just going to say, hey, I don't get it. So test these problem statements, and we've got something that we can work with. Moving right along. WordPlay targets a $50.1 billion market. Initial focus is 150 small segment of small businesses, 150 million small business segment in Nashville, North Carolina, and Boulder, Colorado. That's our initial focus. Before I continue along, I just want to say this. All of us advisors here at startups.com and everywhere you go, we're going to give you different advice because we have our own preferences and we have what works for us. That may not work for you. So I'm going to give you some advice here next that I hope everybody can listen to, but you want to take it with a grain of salt. I like to joke that 50% of my advice works. I just don't know which 50%. Truth be told, I hope it's more than 50%, but it might not apply to you. So I'm going to give you some guidance here in terms of how I approach market size when it comes to a pre-seed deck. And there's some good things that are happening here, but I have founders that come and say, well, so-and-so, for example, the venerable Will Schroeder, my chief there at startups.com, founder of startups.com and the CEO, he does things a certain way. So people come to me, but Will told me to do it this way. And I go, great, then try it that way. And then people go to Will and say, but Ed told me to do it this way. And he has the exact same response. We're all trying to get to the same end result. But what you want to do is figure out what tool works for you and adapt it, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to pitch this. You're the one that has to feel comfortable. So use the tools that are going to work for you, please, and thank you. Let me start by saying I prefer Tam Sam Sum. And the reason I prefer that is I want to know the founder knows how to analyze their market and do the math and show the math of Tam Sam Sum. You might see Tam Sam Sum look like this, where it's like Tam Sam Sum right in the middle. Well, that helps me understand where the founder is coming from and gives me an idea of where they are in terms of their capabilities and their understanding of the market. Now, in this case, we're using the example or the methodology where we're saying, okay, here's the TAM or here's the SAM, but I'm going to focus on the SOM. And it's a lot easier to digest, because if you don't do your TAM, SAM, SOM right, then what's going to happen is the friction starts to occur and founders or investors are going to start questioning and say, how did you get to those numbers, etc. But let me give you some feedback here on what you have. WordPlay targets a $50.1 billion market. I don't know how you got to that number. $50.1 billion in what? Money spent on short form advertising or video advertising at all? Like, of the 33 million small businesses, are they all spending a total of $50.1 billion in short form advertising? I don't know. So give me some more details in terms of what this math means, where it comes from. Next, initial focus is $150 million market of small business, Asheville, North Carolina, Boulder, Colorado. I need to know why. I need to understand, why is this your beachhead, right? Is it just geographic area you can target and focus, right? And then where does this come from? This is back to the question up here. Is this because small businesses in Asheville, North Carolina, Boulder, Colorado are spending $150 million a year in short form video advertising? So we're missing some information. So expand this out, and I hope other people can take away from this. The more that you can analyze from bottom up your market size, and for example, say, all right, there are 2 million businesses in this geographic area, and on average, these businesses spend, let's say, $10,000 a piece on short form video advertising. Well, then 2 million businesses, that's quite a bit of money every year. Well, how did you come to that? You want to show the math and explain the logic so that investors believe that you've got what it takes. So we got some work to do here, but it's in the right track, on the right track. We're getting there, and you just want to refine it a little more. Continuing along, how it works. Small business owner creates beautiful and effective short video ad, fast and easy, and it's got 3 steps. And small business owner effortlessly creates compelling, effective, got this tagline at the bottom, this little statement at the bottom, if you will. I don't need to see this. This here is marketing fluff. We don't need this. Beautiful, effective, fast and easy. Okay, we've already established that this tool lets small businesses do things faster and easier. We don't need that. This, all right, you get marks for. I like this. I like this statement down here. So what if we move this up here, we change it, and said something like, small business owners effortlessly create compelling and effective short videos in short periods of time. Let's refine this. Small business owner can create compelling, effective video ads in shorter time. And then you have 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to add number 4 here in a second. I like the fact that you just got one sentence, okay? So you pick 4 pictures, 4+ pictures and videos. You had short description text for each. Choose fitting music video, and so you're done, or you render, but here you want to publish. Remember, you said social media. This has to go somewhere, so I want to say we're publishing to your Instagram Reels or your YouTube Shorts or your TikTok, etc., right? And then the app creates a seamless slideshow of each of their descriptions perfectly equally timed to the music, all right? So now you've explained this. So as far as how it works, I like it, all right? Short, simple, all those things. And what's really great is you can actually run this by small business owners, and you can explain to them how it works very simply and effectively. This is pretty good, because so many founders come and they put like 300 steps and paragraphs of information. And I say, break it down into 4 steps. And they say, but Ed, our startup does so much more than that. I go, yeah, I get it, but I don't want to have to spend all this time understanding it. Let's just get to the point as quick as possible. Moving along, traction. All right. Once again, I'm going to highlight the fact that this is pre-seed. Pre-seed has to come across a little different, because you're pre-revenue, you don't have a product, you don't have users signing up every single week, etc. So now we need to get detailed in terms of what have you done before product launches and you're generating revenue that gives the investor confidence that you're the one who can figure this out. So our early prototype is gaining consistent validation, positive feedback from experienced founders, and preliminary interviews weekly. All right. So I'm going to take this out. The reason is it's just a vague marketing statement. It doesn't really give me anything, and it's fluffy. And I'm going to interpret this as you're kind of not doing anything other than embellishing or puffing out your chest. You're trying to sound cooler or bigger or better than you actually are. Without the details, I don't believe you. So now this is better. Finish early prototype. Okay. So just put early prototype complete January 2023. I don't know if this is the case for Heron, but let's just say 2023 early prototype complete. Positive feedback. I want to know. Okay. So for example, showed it to 5,000 small business owners and 5,000, or let's say I showed it to 10,000 small business owners and 5,000 have signed up for the beta launch. That's traction. That tells me you're de-risking the investment. You know how to go out and get there and get the feedback and get to your target market. Monthly progress every month, more successful founders with exits give us product validation. This means nothing. This means nothing because who knows what that exactly looks like? I need details, right? So these two are great. Focus more on this. When was the prototype finished and how many people have shown it for? And you want to get as detailed as possible. I want details. I want numbers. I want metrics. Okay, that's a traction slide. Okay, so just be straightforward and say, this is what we've done. Now, you may be thinking, all you founders are there, but I'm pre-seed. I don't have traction. That's the point. What this slide is going to do is going to make you go, what do I do to go get more traction? Do I need a landing page? Ed, I don't have people actually signed up. Well, have you actually tried that so far? Have you created a landing page with put in your email address and sign up for the beta? All that good stuff. Now, I'm going to give you some other ideas on traction later in the future here in this video. As far as this startup particularly, traction, you're going to be exposed when it comes to this slide of what you've actually done. What have you legitimately done to de-risk the investment and prove to the investor that you are the founder that can figure this out, and you are already proving it a little bit at a time. All right, so that's the traction slide. Let's continue on here and set it up. This is the almighty competition slide. All right. So let me just go back to saying this is just my opinion alone, but there are two ways that you can do competition slides. You can do the matrix, which is what we sort of see here, like a grid where you got certain features and all this stuff, or you can do a quadrant, a magic quadrant slide, or whatever you want to call it. Now I'm going to give you an example of each one, and then we're going to come back to this here. All right. So I'm bringing out my trusty whiteboard. And if you look, what's happened is a matrix slide. So this is the matrix version, is you have your benefits over on this side here. And then you've got your competition. So you got you, and then you've got competitor 1, competitor 2, and competitor 3. Okay, here's what happens. Now, what you've got is you got all the features ticked off, and then this, so you got some things going on here. So they may have a few features ticked off, but generally it's here, etc., right? Something like that. So that's your competitive matrix slide. Now, the issue with this is, well, if you don't have all your features and everything figured out, and you're not far along to have any sort of real hypothesis, people might not believe you, all right? It's great to have these features, but can you actually pull that off? Now, here's another way that you can approach a competition slide when you're at pre-seed, and this is the magic quadrant. Okay, so competition doesn't necessarily have to be other programs or apps that a user could be using that does the same thing that you do. At a pre-seed, pre-revenue stage, competition might be, what do your users do instead of a solution because they don't know that you exist, right? What do they do when they're not using a tool? Maybe they're doing things manually or something along those lines. And so I'm going to show you how we could possibly do this for WordPlay right here. Let's pick 2 dimensions. Let's pick slow, okay, labor intensive. And let's do expensive because I'm riffing off what we've already said as far as solution. And let's do cheap. So now what happens is I know that WordPlay is in the fast and cheap quadrant. And I'm going to reserve that quadrant for me. Now, let me just address another point of feedback that people come to me with. They say, but Ed, you basically created your magic quadrant so that you only exist in that quadrant. I go, yeah, that's the whole point. I want to quickly demonstrate how my software or my solution is differentiated from all the other things a user could be doing out there. It's the same thing you're doing with your features matrix or your benefits matrix, where you say one column's got all the check marks. This is what we do. And the rest of my competition doesn't have all the check marks. Maybe they got one or two in each one. You basically, theory crafted, or you've gamed your matrix to make you look the best. Yeah, that's the whole point. But in the competitive matrix, when it comes to the competitive matrix, you're going through features. I'm going to give a general overall approach to the landscape of where I'm targeting as far as differentiation when I'm using my magic quadrant. What does that look like? Let me get back to this. So we got fast, slow, expensive, cheap. Now I'm going to be looking at, okay, what happens? Let's say TikTok is down here. Well, it's cheap because it's free, but it's slow because users have to record, edit, put all the stuff there and get it all there, and building campaigns is super cheap. Now, what would be fast and expensive? Well, maybe an agency, right? An agency is someone that comes in. Maybe the agency is down here too, expensive and slow. Yeah, I know agencies that are expensive and slow, but this is what small businesses could be doing, but they can't afford it because it's too expensive, right? And so you want to look at all the different things, and maybe you've got one here and one here or something along those lines, and you want to establish the reason that you are in this quadrant and that you are going to be differentiating from all the rest of the quadrants. So that's just a little example or a suggestion that maybe you want to use, especially if you're in this pre-seed stage. Moving along, we're going to go to the team slide. Okay, for the team slide here, I'm just going to give some direct feedback, and I'm going to say, all right, let's can this. I am Heron, the founder. I have experience, advisors, and support. Forget that. All right, team. Now, what I want is more detail as far as the bullet points as the founder. Okay, let's get rid of single founder. Don't need to know extraneous information. If you're an architect with UI, UX design experience, how long have you been doing that for? 5 years, 10 years? Exceptional code uses and skills. I don't know. Hey, did you do your entire prototype using no code? Just say creator of the MVP prototype using no code. Publish school writings and compose music for what? Like, give me some clear examples of why you're the one who's got this figured out, and that you're starting to show you got the experience and you're developing the toolkit to go there. And I'm going to say, let's just put founder up here like this. And then I'm going to say advisor and just make it super clear, because right now I have to look a little bit and see advisor, and we're going to put advisor this way. All right. And notice how, look, you got details here, 6-step profit growth, multi-million-dollar exits, worked with various clients. Okay. You're clear on the companies, 2 SaaS products here. So the same detail we want to put in there. All right. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to win a Nobel Prize or anything like that, but get me some detail. This is how you change the team slide. Moving along. We're raising $250,000 pre-seed round to complete our mobile app and acquire 5,000 daily active users. All right, let's jump into this here. I like the fact that you said, all right, I'm raising 250, okay, pre-seed to launch complete. So you've got a milestone in here. What I don't like is you're saying acquire 5,000 daily active users. How do you know you're going to get 5,000 daily active users with $250,000? It seems a stretch, because I haven't seen any traction or a go-to-market strategy where you've demonstrated for me that you can get 5,000. You can get 1 daily active user. You don't even have 1 daily active user yet, right? And so here's where I'm going to tie in some of the traction. What if you could say we're raising $250,000 to complete our mobile app and test it with 5,000 businesses that have signed up for our beta? You see how that changes that? Now you go back and say, I don't have 5,000 people who sign up. Well, go get it, right? That's where you're using traction, right? So I like the use of funds here, which is great. But again, pre-seed, not really going to know if you're in there or not. But, having the breakdown is okay. And then mobile app and working beta to acquire 5,000. So there's a lot of contradictions. Working beta, acquire 5,000 daily active users. How do you know your beta is actually going to achieve that, right? So change it to mobile app launch to our waiting list of 5,000 users. Our mobile app beta will allow us to acquire more daily active users as we raise more capital. Okay. Don't want to put that in there. All right. There's a lot of conflicting messages, raise more capital, etc. I don't want to think about that. I just want to know, how much do you need to get to your next milestone? I'm going to take for granted that if you're legitimately playing in the world of startups, you're building a unicorn, you're going to have to raise more money to grow all the time. But let's narrow it down, 250,000. Now, here's the next thing. Okay, 250,000. That's actually a good number, but how do you know? How do you know what is happening in terms of, can I get a smaller investor in, right? So that's where this comes into play. This is good for everybody to know. 75,000 allows the app development to happen, right? To launch the app. And so a $75,000 check is going to help with all these things and get that going. So you want to keep your pre-seed raise low, and you want to have investors, because you're going to be looking at all these FFA investors, and nobody's going to be able to write a $250,000 check. Well, maybe you're lucky if someone's going to come in that round. But you want to lower what you're raising pre-seed, which is the reason I've seen pre-seed people say we're raising 2 million pre-seed. That's not going to cut it. Okay, that's very scary. So I like what's going on here. This is a really great start to the funding slide. Make those adjustments. Financials. All right, I don't want to see this slide. What's the reason I don't want to see this slide? Is because I don't have any data. You don't have any data. You're not showing me. Like, it'd be something else if the company has been making money for the last 2 years and can show past revenue and then how it scales up to this number up here. All right. On top of which, you're looking at issues where you're creating friction, where someone's going to start questioning how you got to these numbers to begin with. Like, there are so many different question marks that we don't understand. So I'd rather see you take that slide out and say, you know what? I'm not even going to think about revenue year 4 or even revenue year 1. All I'm doing is raising money to get to my launch, and then we'll figure that out. So take this slide out. The only reason that financials and pro formas and financial models, all those things are important for a founder in this situation is if I want to know if a founder can even pull that off. But if a founder at pre-seed stage shows me a financial model, I look at the financial model, I go, did the founder tick all the boxes that are important in a financial model? And I go, great, I don't even look at the numbers. I go, the founder knows how to do this. That's helpful as a data point for me. The founder knows what they're doing. But the numbers, they're all pie in the sky. They're all just complete guesses and assumptions with no data to back them up. You don't need this slide in a pre-seed deck. Now, in a seed deck or an A-round deck, obviously you're going to need those because you want to get as much information out there at the traction that you already achieved. Moving along, here's the last slide right here. We're missing just one thing on this slide, and that is contact information, right? Okay, so make sure that you end with a call to action and just contact me. There you have it. I want to say a big appreciation, totally courageous. If you're watching this, as I said, Heron has taken the step of courage to allow other people to watch this. Heron, I appreciate everything you're doing. Keep on it. You are so much further along than I remember our first conversation we had when you said, I want to be the A student. And you're right there. You're ticking all the boxes. You're learning. And I appreciate any founder that put in the hustle. And that's the reason I want to give you as much feedback as possible. For anybody else watching this, if you're on our communities and you're watching this, thank you so much. Whatever community, startups.com, other accelerators, other platforms that I'm a part of, appreciate your support. Do the social media thing. Find me on all the socials, but like, comment, subscribe. All that feedback is really helpful. And if you want your own pitch deck review, just get a hold of me and contact me. If you have other questions, more than happy to answer them. Again, I just totally appreciate the community and the hard work that all the founders are putting in to their startups and raising capital or building their products. It's awesome. It inspires me every single day. That's it for this video. I will see you in the next one.